Elite Wrestling, Mr. Tony Khan. Boy, I got to tell you, Tony, not a lot to talk about today. I mean, not much happened this past week, huh?
There's been more exciting news in the past 2 weeks in AEW than there had been, in my opinion, in the wrestling business for a long time. What we really needed was this kind of energy, this kind of excitement from the fans, and the fans have shown up and expressed their excitement in a major way. We learned from ESPN that there was more traffic on their social media posts on CM Punk returning to wrestling and arriving in AEW on Rampage than they'd had on any post since May. That includes the NBA Finals, the European Championships, and the Summer Olympics. So to say that this was an event that caught worldwide attention and got people excited would be a massive understatement. And I'm so excited, and I think the fans are. And there's so many great things happening around AEW. I think it's been a long time since there was a pay-per-view as stacked top to bottom as All Out. When you look at the card, there's really so many matches, and it's not the first pay-per-view where there could be 7-8 matches already that people are going to get really fired up about. And, you know, for any wrestling fan, there's something on this card, I really believe. And top to bottom, what a show. And it's like some of the great pay-per-views are like that. And, you know, I think we've done some really exciting, great pay-per-view shows. We've had buy rates that have compared to nobody since WCW, not the last year of WCW, really not even the last 2 years of WCW, since 99. Because in 2000, 2001, their buy rates had declined, and they were still doing better business than anybody's done since. But really, those are markers we've passed up on pay-per-view, and now we're taking it to another level in 2021 with a lot of big stars arriving in AEW and the great homegrown talent we've developed all coming together. You know, there's no better example of that happening than this pay-per-view. When you look at what's happening, you see Darby Allin, who's one of the hottest wrestlers in the world right now. In past year, what a reputation he built up. He caught fire as the TNT champion and got paired up with Sting and became a household name in wrestling, in my opinion. And like CM Punk said in his promo when he came back, if he was a 15-year-old kid, this would be his favorite wrestler. I feel the same way. And he's broken in. Yeah. And to hear that from Mark Henry, CM Punk, some of the biggest names in wrestling history, to come out and say that they feel that way. What a huge statement. And Darby Allin is a wrestler of the moment, and CM Punk is one of the all-time greats and has been out of action. And this is a statement match. It's an event, and All Out is stacked top to bottom. And like I said, the card is so much of it is that of our homegrown stars taking on top stars that have been built worldwide reputations. And when you look at Chris Jericho taking on MJF in a match where if MJF wins, Jericho's never going to wrestle again. And, you know, he's been a huge part of Rampage on the commentary team. And MJF, talk about a homegrown star, has broken through to be a top heel in wrestling. And I really believe when you look at the TV ratings for so much of what they've done, all the segments they've done in the past year, and the attention we've gotten from the Dinner Debonair and the New York Times, the Blood and Guts, what they delivered in the Stadium Stampede, and the attention we got, and then the match they had just a couple weeks ago on Dynamite. Jericho and MJF have delivered so much for us. And again, it's a great example of a homegrown star and one of our young talents getting that kind of rub from one of the big stars in wrestling. And really top to bottom, there's that on the show. And then the championship matches, I think, are so strong. And after, Dynamite, we learned about the finals of the tag team championship eliminator tournament. And now we know that it's going to be Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus taking on the Lucha Brothers on AEW Rampage tonight. And AEW Rampage, we built such a great audience last week and did such a huge number for CM Punk's arrival. And now to come back with that audience that stuck around and maintained over 1 million for every quarter, I think there's going to be fans that want to see more what they saw last week because clearly they like the show. And we've got some great matches, but we're going to start it out with the AEW Tag Team Championship Eliminator Finals. The winner of this match, Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus versus the Lucha Brothers, Penta El Zero Miedo and Rey Fenix, will be out in line to go out and get a fair shot against the Young Bucks at the pay-per-view. And I think to go out and put that match out at the beginning of the show, and they're going to have time to have a classic, that's one of the best matches AEW can put on. And I want to showcase the great homegrown talent of AEW to the people who may not have seen it before, because we built a great audience over the past couple of years on these homegrown stars' backs. And to be able to put two great teams like the Lucha Brothers and the Jurassic Express, Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy, it's what AEW is all about, in my opinion. And then people are going to hear more from CM Punk and Darby Allin tonight about their match. Rampage is a huge, huge, huge era changing moment in AEW. I think what's happened since we launched Rampage a couple weeks ago, the interest has grown, and we've really started to see things change, and that's going to continue. And I promise fans a new era. And at All Out, the card is so stacked top to bottom, and I think we can talk a lot more about the World Championship matches here today, but you'll see more about what's going to happen at All Out tonight on Rampage. And tonight we'll learn who the Young Bucks are going to face at All Out for the tag team title. I'm really excited about that. And all of the matches on the card. I have to say, from coming on the show every week and being on here with you guys, I've really gotten to enjoy finding out what you guys like about Dynamite. And now with Rampage, I'm excited to hear, doing the Tony Time on Fridays with you, what you're excited about on Rampage. So please, what do you, what did you like about the show, a couple nights ago? And what are you excited about for tonight's Rampage?
Well, Tony, I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I'm excited about the tag. I'm excited about watching the Lucha Brothers and Jurassic go at it, but I'm really, the thing that I'm looking forward to is I'm fast forward in time. I can't wait for All Out and see Chris Jericho and MJF go at it because of what I feel like is going to be the match that steals it.
Yeah, I think they can have a great one. And the stipulation is something that I think we all have to really take a hard look at, because Chris is one of the people that made AEW possible. And if Chris hadn't taken my calls and taken this seriously when I was launching this company and making the initial investment, I don't know if I would have moved forward or what I would have done. And he was a huge part of this from the beginning. And really, the people that I was close to and that really took this seriously and trusted me were Chris and Matt Jackson. And those are the two people at really the beginning that I would talk to every day. And so I would say that without Chris, it would be hard for me to have gotten AEW off the ground. And I would really say that if Chris does go out, and ends up going to the commentary booth with you, Mark, on Rampage, it will be the show's gain. I think Chris does a great job as a commentator. He's been a legendary wrestler, and he's also been one of the really key people in the history of AEW, our first ever world champion. And All Out is the most stacked top to bottom pay-per-view we've done. And I think, I'm not saying this subjectively, I think when you look at the card objectively, it's the most stacked wrestling pay-per-view that anybody outside of WWE could even maintain, could even argue that they've put on in the last 24 years, 23 years. Wow. I would say at least 23 years. and then you can start arguing 23 years ago. But I just can't see anybody outside of WWE saying, like, holding up their hand and saying they've done anything like this in at least, and it's so ambitious. And I don't know if you can compare it. Look, I don't want to compare our roster to anything ever. I like to compare our rosters sometimes to what I think was the hallmark great roster, which is 97 WCW, where you had all these stars and all this young talent. And I really do my best to try to utilize the roster even better than they were doing when they were such a successful company printing money in 97 and 98, because they had a lot of young talent that they didn't really utilize, and they could have built for the future to help make it a profitable company that they never would have wanted to shut down, because they could have made it a money printing machine if they developed the young talent in-house that they had with Chris Jericho and Dean Malenko and Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio and the people that were a big part of Worldwide and Saturday Night and those great shows, but they didn't necessarily win a lot of matches on Nitro and Thunder. And they could have built them for the future. And I do try to build stars for the future. And that's why you have so many great homegrown stars that are being featured at All Out, like Darby Allin and MJF and Dr. Britt Baker, and whoever wins the match tonight between the Jurassic Express and the Lucha Brothers. There's really great opportunities here. And I don't think Jericho and Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero necessarily got those same opportunities when they were on a roster with the all-time names, Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair and Randy Savage and Roddy Piper and all the people that were on the 97 WCW roster, which was so successful. And what a great TV business they built with that roster. And unfortunately, it didn't last. And I think it would have lasted longer if they'd built the young stars the way that I really try to do.
You mentioned, WCW 97, somebody who was a part of that roster we're going to see in the ring at All Out. What's kind of gotten hidden because of all the things that have been happening over the last couple of weeks is Paul White is making his return in the ring at All Out.
Absolutely. It's going to be great. Paul White, last night, it has been featured on Dynamite, and we've seen Paul White on Elevation for months working as a commentator. He's done a great job. And I think having Paul White working on Elevation with Tony Schiavone, it's really helped him develop a great friendship with Tony that led to Paul White, ironically, coming back to the ring, because he, long term, I think Paul, same as Mark, great wrestler. They're two of the most famous, recognizable stars, I think, in wrestling. If you see Mark Henry or Paul White walk into the room, everybody's going to take attention, and it's a big deal. And you hear their voices. They've got very recognizable voices, both of you. And I think it's really with Paul on Elevation, he and Tony Schiavone had built a great following and a great friendship together off camera that really goes back, like we said, WCW to the 90s. And when Tony got beat up on TV and when QT's pouring drinks on his head and belittling him and his family, Paul had enough, and he was the guy that stepped up. I joked backstage to the announcers, Mark was there, I joked to JR and Excalibur, you guys are doing nothing. And Paul's got to come from Elevation to fix this, because his other broadcast partners didn't stand up for him. I'm just kidding. But it was really
I'm not to mind
cool.
My business.
Hey man, you're on Rampage. That was Paul's his commentary partner. He stepped up, and it's like Roddy Piper and Gordon Soley. They had that friendship like Paul and Tony. And so I think I'm excited for Paul to return to the ring and again talk about his recognizable presence and somebody who got a lot of eyeballs on AEW. And if you look at search traffic and metrics, they confirm what I think we all know is Paul's super recognizable, draws a ton of eyeballs, and the numbers back that up. So very excited about that, and really excited about the world title matches. We talk about homegrown stars and what a crossover person in the world of wrestling Dr. Britt Baker. We were just in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, celebrating a couple weeks ago, and Mark and Dave, you can both attest what an incredible homegrown reaction.
Wow.
Totally organic, all those moments. And talk about a star in her element. And what's crazy is I told her when we went to Chicago to the United Center and broke our attendance record, which we're going to again break next month in New York. I was saying to her, this is your element. It's not just Pittsburgh. Like, every town is your town. And then she ended up using some of the stuff we talked about in her promo, and she coined the phrase Britago. So I thought, now that might be stretching it, Britt, but I don't know if we can do that with every city. But yeah, every city really is her city. She's that over now. And what a star. And Chris Statlander has, from day one, been neck and neck, really, and got set back last year when she had a big knee injury. And Chris Statlander was out a long time. And at the beginning of this year, she showed up in better shape. She showed up working her ass off. And she's been really, really consistently having great matches and winning. And she's undefeated in AEW and has built, really earned a title shot. And this is a really exciting match in the card. And to have somebody who's a hot, undefeated number one contender like Statlander coming up at the right time against such an iconic champion as Dr. Britt Baker is awesome. So I'm really excited about that.
You talked about bright spots from Dynamite this week and then what we're going to see on Rampage. I got to bring up Miro. I thought a really great promo from him. We're seeing that Miro that we've always wanted to see, and he's going to be in the ring on Rampage tonight.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear what he has to say. Going to All Out, we're going to hear from Miro on Rampage tonight, and I love what we're seeing from Miro. I think he's doing tremendous work. And so I'm very, very happy about how he's delivered as the TNT champion. He had a great match against Fuego for a 1 minute and 59 second bell to bell match. I think that was about as exciting a minute 59 seconds as we've seen. And still people are talking about it, and very excited to hear from Miro tonight. Really, Kenny Omega and Christian Cage, I think, is a match that has really heated up the last 2 weeks. And I can't think of a match or a program, a story in the world of wrestling that's heated up more in 2 weeks than Kenny Omega and Christian Cage. Because people, I think, question Christian Cage, and I never have. And I think it's very obvious in the way I've pushed him that I never have. I've tried to push him as somebody I believe is a huge star in the world of wrestling, somebody I believe would come in and do the work and present himself that way, and have tried as a matchmaker to set him up in a position to succeed, where he could go out and have great matches, but also as a matchmaker have set up tough tests, like great opponents. And he's gone out and delivered time after time after time. And whether it was with Kazarian, Will Hobbs, Matt Sydal, Angelico, and then the match he had with Kenny Omega on the first Rampage, I think set the tone for what Rampage is going to be. And I can't imagine there was not a better match we could have put on for the first match, in my opinion, than to have Kenny and Christian, and also to give people a taste of what's ahead of the pay-per-view. Because they were facing a TV time limit. I think with the restrictions of a pay-per-view, where there's no commercial or time limit constraints, these guys are going to go, pun intended, all out at the pay-per-view, at All Out. And to have the World Championship, the most prestigious title in wrestling, in my opinion, and I think in the opinion of a lot of people now, what we've done in 2 years to build up the AEW World title, where you could make a legitimate argument, in my opinion, that this is the most prestigious title in the sport. And you look at, there's only 3 men that have held it. It's Kenny Omega, Jon Moxley, and Chris Jericho. And you can definitely argue about the way Kenny Omega won it last year and the way he's defended it at times. But the guy is bell to bell, quite arguably the best wrestler in the world. And Christian Cage, I think, is one of the best wrestlers of all time. And now the way he's been featured in AEW and the way I promoted him, I think it's obvious I feel that way. And I really believe Christian Cage in this comeback has done a lot, and I think he can do so much more. It's not a short-term deal as people see now. He's come out and wrestled every week. He was out for many years. And it also sets the stage and hopefully makes people optimistic for the future, frankly, of CM Punk. Because when you see how Christian was out for 7 years and you see that I've featured him and have gotten him in big matches and that AEW has given him a great platform to succeed, but also that this was not a short-term deal. Like, this guy's going to be a part of the roster. He's going to wrestle and he's back. And when CM Punk said he's back, this isn't one of those BS comebacks where the guy's going to do a pay-per-view match and then go do 6 movies and come back every 5 years. This is the real deal. Like, he's signed. It's similar, maybe not as a mainstream story, but it's similar to us in the world of wrestling in terms of what he's going to do and how he's going to deliver and what we expect in terms of him being like a super professional guy that we all respect. It's like with Christian Cage, because with Christian Cage, he came back and he'd been out for many years. He's been a featured star in AEW. Now he's challenging for the title, not because he got thrown into the mix, not because he showed up day one and I said, oh, Christian Cage, and he's going to be the challenger for the title. He has had match after match after match, and he worked his ass off, and he didn't just become the number 1 contender. He was like the number 5 contender, the number 4. He worked his way up every week, and he won match after match after match, and they were great matches. And he helped make some new stars, better wrestlers along the way. And yeah, Mark, what do you think?
I definitely love the fact that Will Hobbs is moving up. I love the fact that Miro is finally the Miro that I always wanted to see. He's exactly who I wanted to see. But you said it best, that Christian Cage is there to out-wrestle everyone, and he proved that's the guy that he is. I've had 50 matches with him, and none of the matches that we had were the same. He's just a chameleon of a strategist in wrestling. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of what Christian can do and with other people.
Yes. Every time Christian gets in the ring with one of these new opponents, it's very exciting to me. And again, it sets the stage for what's happening now with CM Punk's comeback. Look at this slate of opponents. And he said it in his promos. And we've delivered it in the past, and now we're going to deliver it to a new audience at a bigger level. CM Punk's comeback's the biggest thing we've ever done. And there are so many huge opponents for this guy, and he has set the stage better than anybody. And you look back at what Christian Cage has done. Christian Cage is a wrestler's wrestler. And I think he has really proven and really set the standard for a comeback. So it's really exciting times. And to have, Christian Cage deep into a comeback after a long layoff and a successful comeback where even some of the harshest critics have done a 180 and said, okay, I didn't believe in this. I wasn't excited about this. And I thought Christian was maybe a second banana, frankly, is what some of the people would have said. And they would now admit that he see him, Christian Cage, as a top player and that he deserves this spot. And the match they had, like I said, to kick off Rampage, we couldn't have picked a better match to start AEW Rampage to kick off a franchise. And it's a huge title match for All Out that I'm very excited about. And so the card top to bottom, so stacked, and there's really more to talk about. It's just really going to be a great night for us. And tonight on Rampage, I'm really excited to see who's going to come out and be the number 1 contender between the Lucha Brothers and the Jurassic Express, Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. And you couldn't ask for 2 better teams for the number 1 contender match tonight.
Tony, thanks so much for the time. As